I've never been particularly spiritual. Right? I was brought up Catholic, and I think in my head I've always sort of mixed up religion and spiritualism. And you see these shops with all the spiritual, like the dream catchers and things and crystals and stuff. And why nothing's ever one color? All the clothing's like 9 different colors. I don't know why that is. So I've always dismissed it. I've mocked spirituality. You're a lot more spiritual than me. I've mocked you for some of the things you've come out with. Quite openly mocked you for it. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realise that, okay, it's not about religion. It's not about hugging trees and things. It's about expanding your thinking and expanding your mind. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because we're going to talk about the pineal gland. So if you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification for all our new content. It really does help us out. And, go on Facebook and share it. That helps too.
Society is very well structured with organised religion. It kind of forces the association of spirituality to organised religion in your early years, particularly if you're indoctrinated at a very early age into any particular religion. Preach. But I think organised religion's really more about control of people. If you look through history and how different religions developed. Now, that's luckily here in England, I suppose we have had division of the church and state for quite a number of years to some extent, although there is still a little bit of involvement.
Yeah, but we're allowed Church of England religious, aren't we? Which Church of England religion's sort of very limp-wristed, and it's sort of like religion, rather than Catholics and other religions that are like religion. Something. Ours are a bit like, everyone's all right. You can, if you believe and will not believe, or it's okay. The Church of England's a bit limp-wristed. But
okay, I'll definitely go with that. But in America, they still haven't even really managed the division of church from state.
I've decided I'm going to have a bit of a spiritual journey, right? I'm not going to go awakening. Somebody said, oh, you'll have a spiritual awakening. I doubt it. I think I'm probably more likely just going to have a little journey, and I'm going to try to learn more about it. And I've already started to make some contacts, so that I'm going to speak to and see if they can explain it to me. But in my journey, the first thing I did was I've started to look at the pineal gland. They said it's shaped like a pine cone, which is where the name comes from, and it's right in the brain stem. In the late 19th century, Madame Blavatsky connected it to the third eye, or the Ana chakra, from Hinduism, right? And she said this is the location of this chakra, this third eye. You look at like a lot of Egyptian symbology as well, and people have sort of connected like things like the Eye of Ra and things like this, and said, oh, it looks exactly the same as the pineal gland. I like it though. They call it the third eye, and the pineal gland is the only other organ in the human body that's actually light sensitive. Yeah, so it releases melatonin. And that is what helps regulate our sleep. That's for years. They thought that was the main reason of the pineal gland, was to release melatonin. It's also got something to do about gender maturation. I'm not sure why the body does that.
So it's interesting.
Sleep and your balls dropping. Those are the two things that this organ does.
Right. Yeah, but
why?
Why? Yeah, but sleep's far more interesting. With the pineal gland being the third eye, and then dreams, and linking it heavily to sleep.
René Descartes said in the 16th century that this was the principal seat of the soul, right, in 1637. And he said it was our connection to God and to something bigger than ourselves. So in Hinduism, they talk about you have to like maintain your chakras and keep them healthy and things. And one of the things with the third eye is if you keep it healthy, it lets you stay connected to energies and I mean, we call that being connected to God. I don't think they do. I think they're more spiritual than like having gods like that. But being connected to something more bigger than us anyway.
The godfather of quantum mechanics, I think, Niels Bohr, was it Niels Bohr? Yeah, I think said the total number of. No, it might have been Schrödinger, actually. I think it was Erwin Schrödinger said the total number of minds in the universe is one.
It's all connected.
We're all part of one consciousness. Conservation of energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. When you die, if there is a soul, they reckon you lose a certain amount in weight, don't you, the moment you die? Yeah. And they reckon that's the soul returning back to the one energy, the one from which you were created.
I mean, how many times have we said in this channel about that basically it's witchcraft? A lot of things with quantum mechanics. You've got things like quantum entanglement with two particles that have no physical connection but seem to be able to talk to each other still, and have these connections. So then you can't say that we're not connected.
So why couldn't
some energy?
Why couldn't your pineal gland basically be a transmitter receiver for communication between the stars? We're very naive in we think we know everything, but I think the more you know, the more you realise the less you know, because the more questions, everything just comes with the more you know. So I don't know. I just think we're very arrogant, aren't we, as a species?
Yeah. But what are we talking about then? Are we talking about like psychic powers, like mind reading?
Possibly telepathy.
All right. So if we carry on this journey of like trying to explain it to me in a way I can understand, because I'm not very bright. So what are we talking about? Like magnetic energy, magnetic fields, or?
Well, yeah, but perhaps there's like an aura, and everybody has a magnetic field that their brain emits, and perhaps through meditation and dedication, you're unable to enhance the power of that field you produce, perhaps, and therefore, and if you can push that field out further, and then you might be able to connect to someone on a planet around the next star, perhaps. I don't know.
We do have auras, don't we? Because isn't like quite a lot of our body is like, well, calcium's a metal. I don't think everyone thinks it's a mineral, but it's actually a metal.
I don't think it's fully scientifically proven, is it, that we emit?
I thought you could take pictures of it. As you're saying, I remember seeing something years ago about people could take pictures of your aura, but I googled it not long ago, and I actually couldn't find anything sort of like proven, I
haven't found a definitive source paper from a university. No, I haven't seen anything like that.
There used to be a woman years ago could take pictures of your aura, and they said depending on your emotional state, it changed. And I could kind of understand that, because I mean, it's like as your blood pressure changes, things like that, I could kind of understand it affecting things like that. I've always wondered whether you have that sense where you're like like pigeons and stuff can see magnetic fields, right? And they can detect them, and animals can. And it wouldn't surprise me if humans have still got that. They reckon we've got like little iron filings in our eyeballs that pigeons have that allow them to see magnetic fields. We just don't use it anymore. And I'm like, well, how do we know we don't use it? We just might not be aware of it. Yeah. But I also wonder, have you ever had that sense where like someone's behind you or someone's like close to you, but you don't hear them or that you're aware of, but you just sort of know they're there?
Yeah, someone's watching you. So it's almost like, somehow their field's interacting with your field, perhaps. And that's what I was wondering. That interaction, maybe.
And like saying we're just not as aware of it as we used to be. Everybody. I mean, there's some people that say they're far more in tune and aware of it.
Yeah.
Some of those people are mentally unwell, but some of them might be actually tuning into something that is about beyond my realm of understanding at the moment.
Just don't close. That's what I always think. There's not a huge amount of scientific evidence for a lot of the sort of ideas, spiritual ideas. Some connected to organised religions, some not really, is there? There are a few little bits, like this bit on the the pineal gland actually being a third eye, actually being scientifically proven to be a light sensitive organ and having, I suppose, photoreceptor cells of some type,
some sort,
and then you find out the calcification of that gland through the diet of which all of the regulatory bodies around the world have signed off on these food products that contain this stuff.
Fluoride as well is a big one.
Almost like
they call it brain sand. They call it.
It's almost like the people that the powers that be that run the world knew this, and and they're like
they want to cut us off from some. Well, if you say that Hinduism talks about you have to look after your chakras, and if you have a healthy chakra. And these are aligned and all this sort of thing, then it reverts into a healthy body. So healthy spirit, healthy body.
That's why I think meditation's good, and some of the stuff like that as well. It just keeping yourself in shape and your body at one with your mind, and I don't know. It seems to keep people healthy, doesn't it?
Again, for me, from a scientific, I like trying to have science and something I can empirically prove something. They reckon you are 30% more likely to survive from cancer if you have a positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
How? I mean, that's amazing. But that is proof. That's proven. It's statistically proven. People with a positive mental attitude survive more.
Yeah. Yeah, and the placebo
Um,
effect as well, where people think they're
yeah,
taking something that's going to help them. It then helps them because they've got that more positive attitude because they think it's going to help them, even though it's a paracetamol. Proving
yeah,
mind over
over
matter, the
matter.
brain is more powerful than
Mm,
anything. Therefore,
yeah,
could you perhaps communicate across vast distances telepathically using the pineal gland? I think it's a possibility, and it's not
maybe.
worth just striking it off and going, poppycock.
Yeah, but you mentioned, I think earlier, about how, say, Hinduism believes there's this mind and spirit connection, right? And you
Hmm.
mentioned that how we used to believe these things, and then science starts to think, oh well, it's just myth and it's just legend, and then we discover something else. We think, oh god, did they know something we didn't know? And this thing with the pineal gland at the moment, it was generally only believed all it really did was release melatonin, and all that melatonin did was regulate our sleep and make your balls drop, or its sexual maturation, right? And that's all it did. Now, science are looking into like Alzheimer's research.
Hmm.
I've got a list of things they now believe the pineal gland is actually involved in. Right, it's antioxidant defense. It helps with your immune responses. It is creates a neuroprotection in the brain, anti-amyloid, anti-apoptotic, apoptotic. Saying that right? It's an anti-inflammatory. It helps with stress regulation. And this thing that we were talking about, how because we have so much fluoride and calcium in our diets, that
Hmm.
this actually causes calcification of the pineal gland
Yep.
and cuts it off and stops it working. It makes it go smaller and stops it working as much, and melatonin levels drop. They have now created a direct link between melatonin levels and cognitive ability. So as your melatonin levels drop, your cognitive function drops.
Mm.
You can't think as well. They think there might be a
Yeah.
direct link between Alzheimer's and your pineal gland. So, and that's where a lot of the research is going at the moment. Not just because the pineal gland may have all these effects, it actually helps to stop the rest of the brain from becoming calcified. A lot of people that believe in this third eye and this spiritual connection to God are trying to say, well, we need to cut fluoride out of our diets, we need to drop calcium. And obviously, they put fluoride in our water quite a lot.
Get a water filter that'll filter the fluoride out.
I don't think it forces fluoride. One of the theories then is that maybe this is done on purpose. That the fluoride is put into our water, calcium, and all these other things is done on purpose to damage the pineal gland. The one theory being that
To make dumber, more obedient workers. Yeah.
well, no, I mean what they were talking about was it's if the pineal gland is our connection to God.
Yep.
They want to break that connection because
Yeah.
they don't want you to have that spiritual connection to the greater being. They want you to do it through the
Yeah.
church.
They don't want you to realise your true worth. Yeah.
Yeah, and to have that understanding, like you said. So I mean, they want to control that path, that conversation, that understanding, and they control that through the church and separating you from your own ability to explore those feelings, that understanding of the greater universe.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be able to exercise nearly as much control, the governments of this world, if they had people that were telepathically communicating with other beings or their creators, or off one of the one energy of the universe, talking to creation itself. I don't think
wonder though
they
if you
quite
start
have the same level of control.
no, well, I just wonder if you start thinking on those levels, are you then going to be going to work and earning, paying your wages and paying taxes and stressing about your mortgage as much as we do? And or would we actually possibly revert to a simpler way of living that the government don't want us to do, and Amazon definitely don't want us to do? They want us to buy crap. So aliens, because it's always aliens. That's our motto. You mentioned earlier that maybe we could like communicate with other species or what we might consider to be gods or energy of the universe or something.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure on exactly what it would be you'd be communicating with, but one of the above. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my pineal gland's well calcified, so I'm gonna have to figure out what that is so I can try and investigate and try and learn more about this myself. But
has made me want to get an fMRI scan just to see how calcified my own pineal gland is, and just like
yeah, I'll have to look into it.
But do you think it's really bad?
possible though?
God, they have done it then. This is by by design.
Yeah. Was this on purpose? Yeah. But do you think that'd be possible? I mean, but if you think about that in vibration, that's string theory, really, in a way. Maybe it's their understanding of it, but they're talking about vibrations.
You could argue,
and
yes, if everything is made up of a infinitely, small loop of pulsing at a certain frequency, you could argue that that's the frequency of creation,
kind of thing.
The energy of
so
the
I mean,
universe,
it's that thing about saying it's a metaphor, though, isn't it? It's a metaphor, and it's a way of understanding something that we now understand differently. I mean, I can read string theory all day and barely get my head around it. They know, is that just a coincidence, or did they know something that we've only learned from our scientific principle, empirical evidence way in the last 50 years?
And then there's also the theory on a lot of the Egyptian monolithic blocks for the pyramids and other monolithic sites around the world, where they think that they might have used sound waves to levitate the blocks into place, which would make a much easier work than the physical labour that would be required to overcome the normal inertial problems. But if you would, and they have actually done some stuff in universities and science departments where they've started being able to levitate things with sound.
It's only a matter of matching the frequency, isn't it? I think. Yeah, we've all seen those bridges that have fallen down because the wind comes along and it makes the material vibrate at just the right frequency, and they just fall down like they're made out of cards.
Yeah,
it's because it's that vibration
of the material of the bridge. Yeah. And then if you match that frequency, which coincidentally the wind and storm conditions have managed to do in certain situations on certain bridges, then it gives it the maximum amplitude it can on the movement, so it will move as much as and then it's game over because it's just swinging from one maximum to the other maximum.
Yeah, and it just falls down like it's not there. Yeah. So I mean, I wonder if those two things are connected. Sort of thing. So that
quite possible.
If we could understand, we kind of understand how it can destroy things, but maybe if we understood it a little bit better, we could create with it. And destroying things is always easier than creating. In
order to create, you must first destroy.
Yeah, exactly. One bloke come to me the other day and says, we've just done a Skinny Bob video. And one bloke came back to me and said, if you believe in remote viewing, people have said that they've remote viewed the Skinny Bog and other aliens. Stephen Greer, if you've got a couple of grand, he'll take you out into the desert and do group chats and things, and he'll say, and we can do this what is it, like close contact to the fifth kind, this like spiritual connection to the UFO.
Since 1990, a network of free thinkers and renegades have been bypassing the national security state to make direct contact with advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. Using the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind protocols, or CE5, developed by Dr. Greer. This has proven to be the most subversive and dangerous information he has released to the public.
Oh my gosh.
Look at this shit, dude. Here's some look at this. Dude, this is all type shit right now, man. And talk about look at this shit right now. Oh my god, look at this. These three lights, they keep coming together and then they fucking go apart. Watch this. Look at them. Look at that. Look at them. Dude, what the hell? There goes one. Now they're back to two lights. Oop, there it goes. Boom.
For thousands of people, contact has begun.
Yes,
And
very-
they said he
they're
thinks they can
actually
attract them, doesn't he? Actually bring them.
summoning the UFOs to appear and make strange movements, and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But what do you think about this possibility of like the remote viewing though then? And could this be connected to that, this pineal gland and this ability to actually like see things that are, I mean, we've all seen the story about the MJ Ultra and stuff, and the people that stare at
MJ12
and
what?
MJ12, yeah.
MK Ultra was the
MK
mind
Ultra.
control one. Yeah, MK Ultra.
But they were actually doing experiments into, so can we remote view and see what the Russians are doing and stuff? And they spent a lot of money in the 60s and 70s trying to get people to do that.
Well,
They believed it might be possible.
Well, yes, I was going to say the military seems to be quite heavily involved, didn't they, with a lot of people that claim to have these remote viewing powers. If you look into people that supposedly were very good at it, the one particular guy, I can't remember his, looked into him before. Like if you got hold of all of his top secret files and read through them, I would probably have no doubt that in there you would be quite sure that he was very good at remote viewing.
Well, the thing is with me, I think the CIA, they would very quickly. I could understand it. There's one sort of story that the Russians actually did it on purpose. They released during the Cold War, the height of the Cold War, they released stories that they were looking into psychic powers. So the Americans freaked out. Well, oh my god, if the Russians got that, we'd be totally screwed. We need to look at it. So they put money into and started doing research into psychic powers and and remote viewing and stuff. I can completely believe that. In the 50s and 60s, the Cold War was at its height. Everyone was panicking and and I can kind of believe that story. The problem is though, the bit where the story falls down is the Americans continued for like 20 years looking into it, at least that we know about. Yeah. I think they'd have gone, can you remote view? Yes, I can. Okay, what's in this box? You don't know. Well, you're talking crap the night you get out. But they didn't. They continued research for years.
Well, yeah, exactly. Which tends to mean that it was at least some of the test subjects that claim to be able to do it could do it with a remarkable level of accuracy.
Yeah, or at least
so they were very useful to the military. Well, yeah, but you've got to have at least I don't know. What do you reckon? 70% accuracy rate for it to be of any real use.
It's at least got to be statistically relevant, isn't it? That they could give you some sort of intelligence or something, that they continue to spend millions of dollars for several years.
Otherwise, they wouldn't bother, would they? If it was doing nothing for them after 5 years, they'd have binned it. You'd have thought. Well,
yeah, that exactly. So Stephen Greer then, and this alien connection and thing. What do you think of that? Because we'll do a proper episode on Stephen Greer, because
the mind's a very powerful thing, isn't it? Like we said earlier. So. I don't know whether it's possible, especially with calcified pineal glands, to communicate with the beings and summon them to appear in our visible light spectrum or travel to us into our atmosphere. I don't know. It's difficult. I don't want to rule it out of the realm of possibility, because I think the mind's an incredibly powerful organ, and who knows what's within its capabilities.
I think I'm with you on that, to be honest. I think even though it's just something we don't understand, doesn't mean it's not true. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people talking absolute crap out there about this stuff, and a lot of people, con artists, and psychics aren't allowed to call themselves psychics anymore. They have to call them entertainers, don't they? Because legally in this country.
Background as well. Stephen Greer's background, but it's just, if you follow the whole route that he went down, where he was actually involved in the UFO disclosure project in 2001, and then he was actually involved in briefing presidents on the UFO phenomenon and the information that they're not even being briefed into from the deep state. a temporary employee. The fact
Mhm.
that I think his wife died from cancer.
Yeah.
As well, like that. It's just a hardship he went through, but it just, I don't know. I don't think he's someone that's faking it. He's been into the UFO stuff, that you know, and stopped being a doctor to go into all of the UFO stuff.
Mm.
The UFO.
When I saw that
I
he was,
don't think he'd be
yeah.
lying. I don't think he'd be just scamming people, going, "Oh, come and communicate
Mm.
with you know, aliens with me."
Well, when I saw the first that he was doing it and how much he charges, I was like, "Oh, right, okay, here we go again. Bloody con! All he's doing is just about the bottom line, and he's a con artist." But then, if you really think about it, everyone's got to make a living.
Well, exactly.
Everyone's got to, and it's he does a lot of research and stuff into these things, and it's like this all stuff costs money. So anybody that goes, "Oh, he's just doing it for the money," like, so would you.
You've got to live.
We all would. We've got to live. We've got to pay our bills. It's like, come on.
And he's just found perhaps a niche that's not really been done by anybody else before, and
people keep coming back.
There you go. And I think he truly believes he's probably able to do it. You know, yeah. I don't know.
Or at least he's researching and trying to find out about it. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's. I don't know. We'll do a proper video on Stephen Greer because he's fascinating from beginning to end. And yeah, there's lots of people there that believe they're doing that. Like there's lots of psychics believe they're psychic and they're not.
Yeah.
They're just really good at. They're just con artists. They possibly don't even know they're con artists. They genuinely think they're being honest, but
yeah,
doesn't mean they are. Doesn't mean they're still psychic.
Essentially, artists because they've even come themselves.
They're even lying to themselves. Yeah. One other thing with the pineal gland is this DMT.
Oh, we need
thing.
Yeah, DMT.
Yeah.
Course. Yeah.
So what's it stand for?
Dimethyltryptamine.
Thank you. I'm not saying that. Rick Strassman. Rick Strassman in 2013 showed that the pineal gland in certain situations can create and release this DMT hallucinogen drug.
Chemical. It's a chemical. It's a it appears in pretty much everything within nature naturally, all fauna and flora. Okay.
Yeah.
And you get certain rushes of it at certain points, like when you've been born, you're flooded with it. Yeah, I think at death.
And they think at the point of death or close to death, you get flooded with it, don't you, as well?
Yeah.
And I think it's true saying that there's a lot of when I looked at the sort of like the peer-reviewed empirical evidence stuff, there's lots of arguments about how much it appears in nature. Mm-hmm. Some people said it's everywhere. Other people said, "Oh, the evidence isn't so good." There's chemical things how this stuff breaks down and disappears and things. So there's arguments about it. But the fact is that it seems to be everywhere we look, at least in microscopic amounts. And the hallucinogenic properties of this stuff aren't in question. I mean, it's a really powerful hallucinogen. If assuming you are actually hallucinating. The fact that this stuff is in the pineal gland, though, and seems to be produced in the pineal gland is interesting. Again, it's one more thing that the pineal gland does that we connect to spirituality.
Yeah,
that we didn't know about.
The soul, as they call it.
Yeah, I mean, the Native Americans used to use DMT or variants of this DMT back in the day to sort of go on their spirit walks. Where they would try to. This is when they would communicate with their spirit guides and all. Big parts of their religion was to go on these drug fueled hallucinations.
Perhaps they're not hallucinations. Perhaps they are doing what the Indian tribes said they used to do, which is connecting you to your creators, to your gods, to the universe, to the one consciousness. And that's what those cultures have been saying. And the tribes in South America, the shamans of these tribes that have managed to figure out that it's not just one plant that they mix the ayahuasca up with, because that's how they take it in South America in the rainforest. They have to get two plants, the root of one plant and another plant. And it's only when you mix those two plants together that you get the chemical reaction that's required in order to produce the high levels of dimethyltryptamine
Yeah.
in order for people to hallucinate or go on a trip from taking the ayahuasca and ingesting the DMT. So it's almost like a recipe they have to follow, or it's a scientific method to get to the hallucinogen.
Again,
So
how do you get to that point?
Who figured it out? Is my question. The massive outlawing of psychedelic drugs across the world. Certain ones like ketamine, they've now started to use to treat people for depression with, as they found ketamine had really good antidepressant effect for people.
Yeah.
And again, I believe that's probably due to the dissociation of the mind from the body that people have talk about experiencing on that drug, where they're almost having an out of body experience, looking down on themselves. And because of that, it's the same sort of thing with most of the psychedelics, including dimethyltryptamine. It removes your ego and yourself from the equation and allows you to just see the universe without that centered point.
And then I suppose our brain has to then try to process what it's seeing or what it's becoming aware of, and that's when maybe we get there's lots of geometric patterns and things they talk about with DMT, don't they? And things like this that people see. And
supposedly that's the underlying structure of the universe. It's revealing the underlying geometries of the universe, which
we know is true. Then they said that the one universal is these certain maths and these certain what's that? The spiral, the God ratio, and things like this. That is everywhere we look.
Fibonacci sequence, all the different patterns.
That we're then trying to understand. And I suppose that you're being connected to, I suppose we're like little babies being connected to, the energy of the universe. It's not going to be the easiest thing for us to be able to process or to understand. We're talking about MK. Sorry, go on.
You could almost consider us a bit like that with the calcification of the pineal gland. It's like we're children that have forgotten how to talk or communicate with our parents because of the calcification of that gland. You could think of it like that on a cosmic scale.
Yeah, we've literally forgotten how to connect ourselves. No, I like that.
It isn't. It's a good.
I think about the MK Ultra again. How we made that point earlier about how they were doing the experiments into remote viewing and things, and they didn't just do it for a week and dismissed it. They did it for years. They did the same with research in acid, and I'm sure DMT and other things. They'd researched the effects and what people were seeing and doing, and how they did this research for years and years that we know of. Possibly, how much don't we know about? So if there wasn't anything in it, why did our government spend so many millions of our tax dollars trying to learn about it or trying to figure it out, sort of thing? Or exactly. I don't even think maybe you figured it out. Maybe they did understand it. Maybe they did know what it was, because it is against forbidden knowledge that we're not allowed to have. But they wanted to militarize it.
That's what I was going to say.
But if you think about a psychic soldier, or any sort of, the amount of effort the Americans and Chinese and Russians put into intelligence to spying on each other. If there was even a possibility that you could have a soldier that could see into the president's private vault and there was nothing you could do to stop him, I could see that would have some value. And we don't know. We know about certain research. We've seen the George Clooney movie about it, and the man that gets stare at goats. And there was a comedy taking the mick out of it, really. But they were saying that this was real research. And like I keep going back to the point, it's the research we know about. What don't we know about? Because our government don't actually like telling us stuff. Well, they definitely don't like telling us stuff that makes them look stupid or potentially that worked. So...
and thanks to the Official Secrets Act, you don't find out for 50 or 75 years, which is just long enough for anybody that was around at that time is probably dead.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So to wrap it up then, the pineal gland, is it our connection to God?
Well, I'm swaying more towards there's a strong possibility that it does appear to be, doesn't it? And perhaps DMT is mimicking a much higher amount of that chemical that used to be released before the calcification of our pineal glands and allowed us to communicate. I'm leaning towards that, and I think science may be able to be going down the route of proving this sooner rather than later by the looks of it.
I think so, yeah. It seems to be something going on. Well, the more we look at the pineal gland, the more the longer the list of things it does seems to be added to it. And like I said, this connection with Alzheimer's to me is fascinating. That they think that once the pineal gland starts to calcify, that whole brain starts to basically turn to smush, and that's like that's kind of what the Hindus told us 1,000 years ago, and we've only just started to listen.
And I think the more detailed the fMRI scans get with the technology improving, will only improve the understanding of the brain. Once we're almost at the point now, can't we, where we can map the individual neuron structure of someone's brain.
Yeah, we're nearly at being able to actually fire them. Every year, mate, we get like twice. They get twice as effective. So I mean,
that'll be where the
year they come up with something else.
As soon as you can map someone's entire brain as a computer simulation, and
actually in real time,
see neurons firing and what's doing what, then they'll start to be able to run computer programs that will figure out what's controlling what and how. And then that's when we'll go.
At the moment, I believe they can track they can actually map the entire brain, but it's mapping it in real time and actually like seeing it. We can only see it in like little snapshots and sort of thing at the moment. But I mean, it's the finer. The closer we look, the more we find with the brain. And when I did my degree a few years ago, they said they reckon we understand about 20% of the brain. The problem is we don't understand anything about the other 80%. And the problem is it's trying to figure out to even look for what you don't understand.
Yeah,
we don't understand what we don't understand is the problem.
There's no signposts. There's not a neuron with a little signpost going, this is what this is doing.
Yeah. It just takes it's a really slow process. If we didn't have ethics and we were allowed to cut into people's brains a bit more, we'd know more. But unfortunately, we don't like doing that. That they tell us about. So,
I'm sure it has been done.
Many times.
By someone somewhere.
My only issue with the question is the pineal gland connection to God is that I don't think we understand what God is.
Well, no, but God might I think God might be so far out of our understanding. Like, if there is a creator that created the universe, like it's probably that powerful and not going to exist necessarily in a physical body like you do. And I don't think you could God's just going to pop down to earth and come down walking past down the street. No,
with his big beard.
No,
or Morgan Freeman. Hello, I'm God. I like this story that I like to connect things to scientific empirical evidence, things that I can actually see and measure and think, and then I try to find something I understand from that, right? And with this whole idea of God, I always think about dark energy, and there's an energy that fills our universe. It's fundamental to matter creating. It's fundamental to universe being created, and holding matter together. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it is, but we can kind of infer its existence. Einstein figured it out years ago and then thought it was his biggest problem. He called it the ether. And then he said it was his biggest mistake. And then we've later realized, no, he was right in the first place. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, share the video where you can. That really helps us. No, fuck that. Start again. Smile. Right. This little acorn. Oh, they say it's like a pine cone. A pine cone.